Hi, I'm Dave Crowder, and I'm sitting here with Rhonda Hoenigman, who's my GK-12 student. And I'm going to have her explain what a GK-12 student is in a minute. But we just made this great lab called Clever with Weather. And Rhonda, wrote most of this lab. And so Rhonda, first of all, what is the GK-12 program?
So the GK-12 program is an NSF-funded project to get graduate students into K-12 classrooms. And the project that I'm involved in is designed to get computer science students into traditional education classrooms, such as science, and get more computational thinking into the curriculum, into the traditional curriculum.
Okay, and so as a GK-12 student, you go to CU.
Yes.
And University of Colorado. And so what's your research there?
So my research at CU is on automated landscape design. So I'm trying to use some computer science, artificial intelligence techniques to design residential landscape that are optimized for water conservation.
You developed this great lab for us, and do you want to tell us how you did that?
Okay, yeah, so I had this idea for the lab, and I wanted to do something on microclimates. The students were learning about large-scale weather patterns and weather and temperature, and I wanted to do something where they could see that the weather in a very small area could actually be very variable based on the surface type, the ground surface, the presence of trees, buildings, and then also something that made them think a little bit about how those microclimates could impact the decisions that they might make. So, for example, they may want to have a picnic outdoors. What does their knowledge of the weather around their school, how would that impact their decision of where they would have the picnic, for example? So we had 5 locations that we looked at. One of them was, well, 2 of them were on the west side of the school. One of them was on the north, and then 2 were on the southeast, or the east and the southeast side. And one of the locations on the west was a cement play area, so we figured that area probably got warmer quicker than the other areas because of the cement. North of the school, it tended to be fairly windy, but we know that the winds are coming out of the north generally. And east of the school, probably the sun, and we get the morning sun, those areas warm up at a pretty good rate. They were also protected from the wind, and so those were the places where we saw the warmest conditions that were also not on a cement parking lot where someone might want to have a picnic.
Smiled.
And so I think that's why those 2 locations were the best, were the places that were east of the school.
Yeah, and so we ended up requiring the students to make a graph in there, and one of the things that stands out in my mind is when you showed a 3-dimensional graph that had, do you want to talk about that for a second? Like, how did it fit the different components together to show a result?
So the 3 things that students were looking at were temperature, relative humidity, and wind speed. And so that 3-dimensional graph put each one of those variables on a different axis. And so we took all of their recordings for all 3 days, for all 5 locations, and plotted them on that graph. And so then students could see which region of the graph represented the best conditions, or we could ask them which region of the graph represents the best conditions, and then see which locations had the most points, data points in that region. That 3D graph really blew them away. I remember they were all really shocked by that, and it was neat too to see how the 3D graphs, that's a little hard to do on a 2D surface. Like, so if they were just doing these things by hand, they can't really draw a 3D graph by hand, but using the computer and the plotting software, they were able to see more than they would have if they were just trying to draw it by hand.
Yeah, and it kind of inspired them, I think, when they made their graphs. Because we made them use color pencils, and at least they had to use color, right, for the different parts of the graph.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, there were some students who were asking if they could do those 3D graphs in Excel. I think they wanted to do their own.
Yeah.
And I'm still not sure if Excel will do that.
Okay. If there's any Microsoft people out there, let's see if we can figure that out. Okay. So anything else you want to say before we say goodbye?
I think that's it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And it was a really great job on your part, and hopefully somebody at GK12 is going to see this and get inspired. All right.
Thank you.
Over and out.